I'm going to take you back to the farm in India, because these guys are really inspiring. We loved these guys. We were out in India at the beginning of the year to help with a project with an NGO run by a local ashram in Pondicherry. And these guys, from this side, you've got Pradeep, who's the chairman and the guy who looks after the money for the ashram. On the far end is Vijay, who is their philosopher. In the green shirt is Baburam, who looks after the farm. And then Jatin, on the left, as you're looking at, who's the architect, and Trupti, his assistant. And we were looking at building a new training campus for re-engaging corporate India with the production of food on this organic farm. But that's by the by, because for the last 5 years, Jatin has been working on this building for the NGO, for the Sri Aurobindo Society. This is called Sharanam, and it's a village development project which the ashram have put together. They've been working with local villagers, trying to raise hygiene standards, trying to raise education standards, trying to raise self-esteem standards, trying to raise standards of respect. And this program has grown over about 10 or 15 years, and it now needs a centre. So they're building Sharanam as the centre for this. But they're doing it in a way which itself is a development project. They have worked with local unskilled labourers to reteach them the basic skills of masonry. And included in that, they have taught them how to make these compressed earth blocks from the local site, from the material that's available on site. They've rediscovered how to make incredibly skinny masonry vaults, tied arch vaults, and a whole raft of fantastic innovations, which effectively upskill what were basic labourers who would be the lowest of the low on a building site to skilled professionals. So they've used masonry, and they've used the ability to construct something in masonry as a way of developing the people as well as the building and the product. And as part of this, they've discovered the need to manufacture precast concrete to do the things that masonry bricks cannot do, such as spanning, making roofs and things like that. Incredibly beautifully detailed precast masonry. In fact, this is the abutment point for or the spring point for the arch, as well as being a gutter, as well as being a sort of a significant feature within the architecture. And this is all manufactured by hand by men with trowels on site. But moving on from that, we wanted to give them an ability to produce multi-storey buildings. And the one thing they can't do with their technology at the moment is to make floors. And as long as you can't make a floor, which in India at the moment is a precast concrete, is an in situ cast concrete floor, then they're stuck. And I got this inspiration from a packed mud floor on timber in a piece of traditional construction, and the fact that Baburam had lots of pots lying around on his farm where he was potting up seedlings and things like that. Put those two ideas together with some historical inspiration about self-weight and how do you minimize the weight of construction by using hollow constructions and by using coffered constructions. And I sketched up something which involved some precast concrete, some local pottery, and a coconut fibre reinforced earth floor over the top to tie the whole thing together. We were just about to go away and visit some temples, so I photographed this on my iPhone, and I emailed it to the architect, and over the course of the weekend, the guys on site got going. And they went and dug sand out of the river and graded it, and they went and found some recovered concrete reinforcement bar and started chopping it up with hand axes. And then they started assembling reinforcement cages by hand, bending the links by hand on a little jig that they'd made by welding some bits of rod together on a base plate. And this is where they make their precast concrete. This is their precasting bed, which is a trowel finished piece of concrete laid over their bricks. It has to be swept clean because the ants keep wandering across it, and you've got to be quiet because there's a nest of cobras that live just in the trees at the back. But the cobras are sacred, so you can't disturb them. And then they start to set out a formwork using the materials to hand. Their instruments, their engineering instruments, consist entirely of one tape measure, one pencil, a trowel and this 3-metre straight edge. That's the only engineering instruments they've got, a bit of string. Set out the blocks and start to pour hand-mixed concrete by hand, trowel compacted. And they actually achieve a construction standard of concrete which is way better than anything we could get out of a UK factory, because it's all done with love. And they just, I mean, this is... 4 years ago, these guys would have been working on a building site in a big city, sweeping the floors or carrying hods of bricks. Now they are skilled labourers, and they've got a pride. They've got an immense pride in what they do because they see what they've created at Sharanam. So there's Jatin after 3 days of work inspecting the first 2 of our precast concrete T-beams. And then we went down to the market and we bought some pots, and we pulled the beams apart and we started laying the pots on the shoulders of the beams, and the guys were looking at us and they just thought we were nuts. They hadn't got a clue what was going on until we took one of their handmade bricks and laid that in between the shoulders, and they got it immediately. They put in 3 more bricks and stood on it. Now they have a method for making floors within their own skills capability, within their own culture. So now these guys can actually compete with contractors to build buildings in the local city.